So ethanol or drinking alcohol is a flammable, colorless liquid. All right, so drinking alcohol is flammable. That means if you touch it with a flame, it goes up in flames. I mean, it is a psychoactive drug. So it affects the mind, and one of the oldest recreational drugs. Well, we know that. Ethanol is the principal psychoactive constituent in alcoholic beverages, with depressant effects on the central nervous system. It has a complex mode of action and affects multiple systems of the brain. It does. Long-term use by ingestion can result in serious liver damage. Death from ethyl alcohol consumption is possible when blood alcohol level reaches 0.4%. A blood level of 0.5% or more is commonly fatal. So booze is called ethyl alcohol and also called ethanol. Levels of even less than 0.1% can cause intoxication with unconsciousness, often occurring at 0.3 or 0.4%. Prolonged heavy consumption of alcohol can cause significant permanent damage to the brain and other organs. Discontinuing consumption of alcohol after several years of heavy drinking can also be fatal. Alcohol withdrawal can cause anxiety, autonomic dysfunction, seizures, and hallucinations. Acetaldehyde is linked to most of the clinical effects of alcohol. It has been shown to increase the risk of developing cirrhosis of the liver, multiple forms of cancer, and alcoholism. It's going to explain this acetaldehyde as we go on. Ethanol can intensify the sedation caused by other central nervous system depressant drugs such as barbiturates, benzodiazepine, Zepinus, opioids, phenothiazines, and antidepressants. So we know that. Ethanol is not a carcinogen. All right, so they're saying that alcohol itself is not a carcinogen. But then it says, however, the first metabolic product of ethanol, acetaldehyde, is toxic, mutagenic, and carcinogenic. In genetics, a mutagen is a physical or chemical agent that changes the genetic material, usually DNA, of an organism. A carcinogen is a substance or agent that can cause cells to become cancerous by altering their genetic structure so that they multiply continuously and become malignant. Asbestos, DDT, and tobacco smoke are examples of carcinogens. See, so tobacco smoke is a carcinogen. It is a nasty and horrible substance. However, drinking more than 3 drinks a day has been found to have a direct and damaging effect on the heart. Heavy drinking, particularly over time, can lead to high blood pressure, alcoholic cardiomyopathy, congestive heart failure, and stroke. Heavy drinking also puts more fat into the circulation of the body. Alcoholic cardiomyopathy is a disease in which the chronic long-term abuse of alcohol leads to heart failure. I mean, this stuff is very negative. It's a real downer. I mean, but if you stay away from this stuff, then you're all right. Due to the direct toxic effects of alcohol on heart muscle, the heart is unable to pump blood efficiently, leading to heart failure. Well, that's happened before with people. There's no doubt. The link between alcohol and cancer is well established, says Cancer Research UK. A study published in the BMJ this year estimated that alcohol consumption causes at least 13,000 cancer cases in the UK each year, about 9,000 cases in men and 4,000 in women. Imagine that. But they keep on drinking. It should be outlawed if it causes these things. Cancer experts say that for every additional 10 grams per day of alcohol drunk, the risk of breast cancer increases by approximately 7 to 12%. Yeah, so basically the governments allow people to sell a substance that is a proven cancer-causing agent. What else is not new? For bowel cancer, previous studies show that increasing alcohol intake by 100 grams per week increases the cancer risk by 19%. Well, they've done studies on this. A recent report in Biomed Central's Immunology Journal found that alcohol impairs the body's ability to fight off viral infections. And studies on fertility suggest that even light drinking can make women less likely to conceive, while heavy drinking in men can lower sperm quality and quantity. Why alcohol has this negative effect on all elements of our health could be narrowed down to acetaldehyde, the product alcohol is broken down into in the body. Acetaldehyde is toxic and has been shown to damage DNA. Wonderful. Dr. K.J. Patel from the Medical Research Council's Laboratory of Molecular Biology in Cambridge recently completed a study into the toxic effects of alcohol on mice. His research implies that a single binge drinking dose of alcohol during pregnancy may be sufficient to cause permanent damage to a baby's genome. Fetal alcohol syndrome, he says, can give rise to children who are seriously damaged, born with head and facial abnormalities, and mental disabilities. Fetal alcohol syndrome is a condition in a child that results from alcohol exposure during the mother's pregnancy. It's called fetal alcohol syndrome. You marry a woman and she drinks during pregnancy. Great. Fetal alcohol syndrome causes brain damage and growth problems. The problems caused by fetal alcohol syndrome vary from child to child, but defects caused by fetal alcohol syndrome are irreversible. There is no amount of alcohol that's known to be safe to consume during pregnancy. If a woman drinks during pregnancy, she places her baby at risk of fetal alcohol syndrome. Alcohol is a well-established cancer-causing agent, he says. You cannot get a cancer cell occurring unless DNA is altered. When you drink, the acetaldehyde is corrupting the DNA of life and puts you on the road to cancer. There's no doubt. With alcoholic liver disease, the greater the alcohol intake per week, the greater the liver damage, and that increases exponentially for someone drinking 6 to 8 bottles or more of wine in that period, for example. Over the past 20 to 30 years, Dr. Sharon says deaths from liver disease have increased by 500%, with 85% of those due to alcohol. Well, there you go. It's all about the alcohol. Just think of it. But yet, people go on drinking, naively, year after year. I mean, you have all these deaths from liver disease, yet thousands and thousands of people keep drinking, and the companies are allowed to pump out the garbage, Only in the last few years has that rise slowed down. Alcohol has a bigger impact than smoking on our health because alcohol kills at a younger age. I disagree with that. Well, it depends how you look at it. The average age, I don't know where that statement came from. The average age of death for someone with alcoholic liver disease is their 40s. Well, I guess I would agree that sounds like alcohol can kill you quicker. Some people smoke for 40 years and they don't die. Earlier this year, the National Health Service figures showed that alcohol-related hospital admissions has reached record levels in 2010. So this was written in 2010, which is quite a while ago. Some of this information might even be much older. Over 1 million people were admitted in 2009 and 10, compared with 945,500 in 08 and 9, and 510,800 in 2002 and 3. Nearly 2 in 3 of those cases were men. So the men obviously drink more. At the same time, the charity alcohol concern predicted the number of admissions would reach 1.5 million a year by 2015 and cost the NHS, National Health Service, $3.7 billion a year. Last year, a study in the Lancet, some publication, concluded that alcohol is more harmful than heroin or crack when the overall dangers to the individual and society are considered. A study by the Independent Scientific Committee on Drugs also ranked alcohol as 3 times more harmful than cocaine or tobacco because it is so widely used. Dr. Sharon agrees there is no such thing as a safe level, but the government has got to draw a line somewhere. It's a balance. People like having a drink, but they have to accept there's a risk-benefit ratio. There is no safe dose of alcohol for these reasons. Alcohol is a toxin that kills cells such as microorganisms, which is why we use it to preserve food and sterilize skin and needles. Alcohol kills humans too. Toxicity of alcohol is worsened because in order for it to be cleared from the body, it has to be metabolized to acetaldehyde. Alright, so that's the only way it can be cleared from the body, is to be turned into that chemical, which is an even more toxic substance. So alcohol is toxic anyway, and then acetaldehyde is apparently much more toxic. Any food or drink contaminated with the amount of acetaldehyde that a unit of alcohol produces would be immediately banned as having an unacceptable health risk. Right. But there's ignorance about that subject. There's no legislation, whatever. We know that drinking too much alcohol is bad for us. It gives hangovers, makes people feel tired, and does little for appearance. And that is just the morning afterwards. Long term, it increases the risk of developing a long list of health conditions, including breast cancer, oral cancers, heart disease, strokes, and cirrhosis of the liver. Why alcohol has this negative effect on all elements of our health could be traced back to acetaldehyde. No kidding. The product alcohol is broken down into in the body. The following is a summary excerpt from Whitmer's Guide to Total Wellness. Alcohol in any quantity, in other words, one drink, causes the red blood cells to become sticky and clump together. Alcohol-free red blood cells move freely, carrying oxygen to all parts of the body. Alcohol-contaminated red blood cells clump together. What a horror show. Slowing blood flow. This clumping is referred to as sludging and is caused by alcohol in the blood. Sludging. So that's what alcohol causes. In the larger arteries, this is probably not a major problem. Oxygen release takes place in the capillaries. Is that right? Here is where the problem occurs. The capillaries are very small. They can be called microcirculation. Often the clusters of sludged cells are larger than the diameter of the small capillaries. Let me read that statement again. Often the clusters of sludged cells are larger than the diameter of the small capillaries. This results in blockage and no blood flow. No kidding. When this occurs, the cells in that area die from oxygen starvation, I'm sorry to say. This happens throughout the body when alcohol is consumed. It can happen other ways too. Alcohol kills body cells by hundreds of thousands. Unfortunately, it does. I had 2/3 of a cup, I think it was 6 ounces of beer, approximately maybe 15 years ago. And I felt the negative effects of it for a year. And that sounds like I'm making it up. I mean, it affected my my nervous system. It was a shock to my solar plexus. Felt like I had drank literal poison. So that was surely the last time I was going to ever put that garbage in me. I mean, it was amazing how my body totally rejected it. Yet when I was young, I could drink it like a fish. You know, it surely would have killed me if I had kept drinking it. Surely. In most parts of the body, this is not a major event because cells can regenerate. Yeah, well, a perfect world. Once the alcohol is out of the system, sludging stops and oxygen flow returns. Well, when you're young. Not so with the brain. Brain cells do not regenerate. When they die from lack of oxygen at the capillary level due to red cell sludging, that minute portion of the brain is dead forever. Wonderful. Due to lack of oxygen, the brain cells die. Great. That's just beautiful, huh? It's hard to believe this stuff. I mean, when you consider how many people drink this stuff, how many people sell it. You know, all these bars and bands, you know, they're always promoting it. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. They could care less, you know, if people die of a disease. They really don't give a hoot. It is the liver that breaks down everything that is ingested. Alcohol is a toxic and foreign substance to the liver. Regular consumption of alcohol causes fatty liver and elevated blood triglycerides and fats, potentially causing premature atherosclerosis. Great. Liver changes are seen on a temporary basis after short periods of alcohol ingestion. Liver injury was produced also by amounts that did not cause intoxication, as in social drinking. All right, so you can just have one drink and they saw liver injury. And these people really weren't intoxicated. Well, it's debatable. To a slight degree, they're intoxicated. There is no doubt that alcohol causes cancer. Then it says at the end, alcohol removes the protective coating that normally covers the mouth, throat, and stomach, making it easier for cancer toxins to invade. Well, that's certainly a possibility. All alcoholic beverages contain chemicals in addition to ethyl alcohol. Right, they add other chemicals in. Carcinogenic agents have been found in alcoholic beverages. So we can have multiple carcinogenic substances in booze, beer, wine, whatever. It's funny, I said that, and that's what it said in the next. Beer, wine, vermouth, and sherry have been found to contain asbestos fibers. Well, why is that? Other contaminants found in alcohol beverages are polycyclic hydrocarbons and benzene compounds. Excessive alcohol consumption prohibits the movement of the white blood cells. When this occurs, the body has lost all or a portion of its ability to fight infections. White blood cells surround bacteria and prevent their spread and reproduction. Alcohol is a drug. No kidding. 1/3 of all suicides are alcohol-related. Alcohol is a foreign compound and a toxic material to the human body. Like water, alcohol requires no digestion and is carried to the brain within seconds. And that is the reason people do strange things or have Jekyll and Hyde behavior. And that's so true of a lot of people. They become a Jekyll and Hyde when they drink. It's amazing, really. They're the quietest person, they have a few drinks and suddenly they become a madman, a crazy person, a lunatic, a maniac. Alcohol, and this is so very interesting, alcohol anesthetizes the part of the brain that keeps people inhibited. So, realize this. If you're going to talk to anybody that's been drinking, don't consider them all there. You're not talking really to a sane person at that point. You're talking to somebody who's not mentally right. They're not themselves. They're not totally who they are when they're not drinking. They can say things that they would never say when they're sober. It's like a different person. It's like you're talking to a different person. Don't think you're talking to the person. You're talking to some other person, like an alter ego, like a Mr. Hyde. Because I think, Mr. Hyde was the guy, that was the personality that was crazy. Dr. Jekyll was the one who created the formula, and then Mr. Hyde was what came. Yeah. So you're talking to like an alternate personality to some degree, depending on how drunk they are, how much they've drank, and of course, depends on the person themselves. I mean, not everybody is Jekyll and Hyde when they drink. And that's why they like it, because they become uninhibited. And they feel like they're free to do anything they want to, and they don't care. They don't care what anybody thinks. They're just going to do their thing. But in the morning, the guilt returns, if it was that bad, big time. Or the guilt is manifest. So it's a foreign substance, and it's toxic to the liver. It shouldn't even be going through the liver. Shouldn't even be in the body. No way. Alcohol becomes the preferred fuel. And instead of burning fat, it burns alcohol. This results in a heavy deposit of fat throughout the liver. That is why heavy drinkers get atherosclerosis. And atherosclerosis is a disease of the arteries characterized by the depositing of plaques of fatty material on their inner walls. Wonderful, huh? I mean, eating a lot of fat might even cause that. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong if you don't put the right substances in your body. Become fat. What happens then? Otherwise known as hardening of the arteries. It says hardening and narrowing of the arteries. Silently and slowly blocks arteries, putting blood flow at risk. It is the usual cause of heart attacks, strokes, and peripheral vascular disease. It says what together are called cardiovascular disease. Let me look up peripheral vascular disease. It's basically your circulatory system, and it says any condition that affects your circulatory system is a vascular disease. Well, sorry, but just about everybody has it sooner or later, right? It says the diseases range from problems with your arteries, veins, and vessels that carry lymph to disorders that affect how blood flows. A disease can lead to your tissues not getting enough blood, a condition called ischemia, as well as other serious, even life-threatening problems. No kidding. Yeah, so they go on and on about this. I could do a whole message on this vascular disease and the blockage of arteries. I read a whole book on that many, many years ago, and I still have it. And the guy's solution was to not eat any fat. But he eventually died of cancer, so he was missing something. I think he died of leukemia. So obviously, he didn't know everything. I mean, when you eat non-fat, when they strip away all the fat completely, it becomes an unnatural product. You get a lot of energy from fat. It's just a matter of not eating too much of it. You overload your system. That's where the problem is. Big time.